If so, how can God understand more than one prayer at a time? Well, for one, this idea of God having specific localities nullifies the concept of omnipresence. Really? How? You either don't limit his location or you do. And it sounds like those who can't believe in the Trinity are limiting his ability to be in different locations at once. How can this not be? Something can contain him, or it can't. But I didn't say anything about God being in two places, or stuff like that. I said, quote, I felt that Christianity did not conform with the concept of monotheism. Well, it seems to be a better job. Well, I tell you, it seems to do a better job with it when it is Allah who calls himself we or our. But to say a being that isn't limited by place exists in two places is a meaningless statement. How so? I have no problem with you saying God is omnipresent. Sounds like you do. I do have a problem with you saying God became part of his creation and took on attributes contrary to divinity. Sounds like you really do. There is no connection between God here in Christ and God supposedly being a human being. He was more than a human being, you know. You know that, don't you? It didn't conform at all to the concept of monotheism at all according to reason. And yet, you believe Allah is able to witness and understand all prayers of Muslims? Doesn't that tell you that Allah can be in multiple places at once? Like he, they, is, are more than one to be in so many places? Once again, you ignore my responses from before. If you are able to, I tell you, if you're able to understand all goings on at the same time on an intimate basis, how can you not be in so many different places at once? Is that why Allah calls himself we and our? You can't do that. Resort to this he-they stuff. I already killed that. It seems to have powers to revive like the Terminator, I see. So Allah has to be there to know something? You mean he doesn't? You are not equating the way God has knowledge and the flawed way we get information. If Allah isn't there, how can he know your intimate prayers? God knows our prayers because of his divine attributes. Again, if Allah is not there, how can one of those divine attributes kick in even? The all-seeing and all-hearing. It is all-seeing and all-hearing. And just the Quran says, there is no group of people meeting in secret, but that he is preferred. But right, shows he is in more places than one. Yet you can't believe in the Christian version of the Trinity. Interesting. But according to the way the Bible presents it, and it presents it as, except by way of lip service, if I say I believe in the Trinity, it isn't due to, quote, lip service. It's because certain passages and scriptures in the Injil, or the Gospel, make no sense if there is no Trinity. I said, you don't believe in monotheism except by way of lip service. What? And what passages in the Injil don't make sense with no Trinity? You mean they make sense to you in spite of you feeling there is no Trinity? How so? Because there are verses that destroy and discredit the ideas of Trinity. Then how can those passages make sense? Haven't you just contradicted yourself? Christians just said one thought, But it's not the akita. It isn't? No, it isn't. It's not their actual belief. It's not their actual belief. Really? Really? You are in fact tritheists, not monotheists. Question, are Hindus monotheists or polytheists in your opinion? What's this got to do with Christianity? Answer the question. Are the idolaters or not polytheists or monotheists? Idolaters or not? Well, they turn their gods into tools of worship in order to get something. A Hindu will even worship a picture of Jesus if he feels it will get him something. I mean, they believe Jesus is possibly a god, though one of many that can get them something if they worship him. But doesn't that mean the Hindu? But I tell you, that doesn't mean the Hindu is a Christian. True? It's important. How so? Be honest. How? No, be honest now. If you feel you are truly monotheist, you shouldn't be afraid to walk across this minefield. And before I willingly go, what's this got to do with you becoming a Muslim? How come you are now trying to make it all about me? So, I wrote my story before. I wrote my story before. Why are you trying to avoid this? I didn't see it. I haven't seen it. I began to compare Judaism and Christianity, and the Old Testament and New Testament, and examine the claim Christians make, and I quote, the Old Testament is a roadmap to the New Testament. Couldn't see how the Old Testament makes no sense if Christianity is false, I take it. Remember the metallic snake on a stick held up by Moses being used successfully as snake bite medicine? Remember the spotless lamb blood on doorways? How come it had to be spotless? Don't avoid my question. What about Hindus? Anyway, explain to me the significance of the lamb in Moses' time. Compile other verses that supposedly don't make sense if Christianity is false, and send it to me. Or is that the other way of it? The Old Testament being right on about the reinstatement. Oh, you want to think about this lamb? Well, it's all the Old Testament. It's nothing about atonement and stuff due to blood, not putting your patootie up in the air like the Muslims do. He doesn't respond. And things like what was concealed in the Old Testament was revealed in the New Testament. Concealed? What do you mean by concealed? I don't know. It's something you say in the South. I think it's supposed to be. It's supposed to mean what you claim, that the Old Testament is explained by the New Testament. I don't know what you're talking about. I wanted to see if it was completion or deviance. As far as I could see, it was the latter. Deviance from what? If it was deviance from 5 hours a day of patooting in the air while facing something, to blood atonement through some lamb being sacrificed, well, you were talking about a huge deviance. And, I mean, really, if it went from patooting in the air 5 times a day of every day, of patooting in the air, to lamb's blood being sacrificed, well, you're talking about a huge deviance, aren't you? And yet the Quran says the Torah, with its, quote, bloody atonement due to the fall of Adam, is, quote, both guidance and life, end quote. And the Injil gospel, which is all about Jesus being a final blood sacrifice on the cross, is, according to the Quran, something I, as a Christian, quote, have no ground to stand upon unless I stand firm upon it. You have no problem with such a huge contradiction, do you? Do you, true? God, you are rude, okay? First of all the salahs together take about 25 minutes, not 5 hours. My bad. I meant to say 25 minutes at a time, which adds up to an hour, over an hour a day, sorry. Also, deviance in that God is not a man, but you say he is. No one can take another's sin. You can say one can. God in the Old Testament forgave with no sacrifice. Did he forget how to do that? No, from my reading of the Old Testament, all those bloody sacrifices for sin atonement, not the tooting in the air, seem to be foreshadowing of the final atonement, or why the idol being used successfully as snakebite medicine when Moses held it up on the stick. Why the spotless lamb blood? The New Testament says, quote, Jesus, the lamb slain from the foundation of the world. It goes something like that, meaning that the whole thing was planned. Blood